This is the Too Many Bones Trove Chest from Chip Theory Games, a modular storage device for all things Too Many Bones. Today we're going to be going over how one member of the staff fills up their Trove Chest. This is by no means a definitive version of how to do it, but it is a version. If you like it, please utilize it in your own. So we're going to start with the top drawer. This is where I keep the rulebooks for the base game, Undertow, Unbreakable, and Splice and Dice. I also keep the Splice and Dice Tyrant sheets, Tyrant mat, Lab mat, and Drawbag here. I store all the reference sheets here as well as the Age of Tyranny snapshot mat. Now we're on to the Gearlock drawer. This next drawer is where you'll store all of your Gearlock trays. To load a Gearlock tray, place all their chips into the chip spot and all of their dice in the dice spots. If you have all of the promos for every character, there will be some characters that don't have space in the corresponding tray for their chips. I personally just find another Gearlock that has less chips and store them under that Gearlock's chip. Some Gearlocks have additional bits and bobs that can either be stored in their tray like so. I do find that this can let them drift around in the tray, so what I do is I actually keep them along with the other Gearlock specific cards, such as Carcass's recipe cards or these Lab Rat backup plan cards, in a separate deck box. This drawer will have enough space to accommodate all 18 Gearlocks, Riffle's deck, and an additional deck box. Now we're on to the Tyrant drawers. You can load up each Tyrant tray with all of their Tyrant chips, dice, and cards, including their Rage of Tyranny versions and promo content. The Build a Tyrant tray is a bit of an exception as there is just so much to it. That's why I've combined it with one of the Tyrants that has the least components, the Automaton of Shale. These extra dice can also be stored in your dice trays if you prefer. Next, we'll move on to the front portion of the neoprene drawer. This is where you're going to be storing all of your cards. Again, this is a very modular storage solution, so you may not want to stack or sort your cards in this way, but this is how I do it. So let's start off. I've got days 1 through 3, days 1 through 2, solo encounters, general encounters, and special encounters. I keep all of these divided by expansion using the blank dividers. Then I've got all loot and trove loot. Then there's the Splice and Dice cards and the campaign cards. Then there's the miscellaneous section. Here's where I store all of the promo cards, cover cards, day counter cards, expansion setup cards, and anything else that I feel doesn't belong in a different section or I'm not quite sure what section to store it in. And lastly, all of the Scar and Boon cards from Age of Tyranny. Next, we're moving on to I store the battle mats for the base game, Undertow and Unbreakable, as well as both adventure mats and all of the Gearlock mats. Now we're on to the bottom drawers of the Trove Chest. In this drawer I keep all of the dice that I'm going to need for the game. This tray holds my effect dice, lab dice, Gearlock child dice, Age of Tyranny dice, promo attack dice, a set of lockpick dice, and a d6. And this tray holds my attack dice, defense dice, round counter, Baddy initiative dice, an extra set of lockpick dice, extra effect dice, and another d6. I also keep 2 chip tubes in this drawer, one for all the unbreakable lava chips, the extra thick day counter, and the Gearlock adventure chip. The other chip tube is where I store the scar tokens and splice and dice pegs. And lastly, I've got a set of premium health and some lab rat health. This is also the drawer where I store the card tray. Now we're moving on to the Baddy drawer. This is maybe the most do what feels right for you part of loading the Trove Chest, or at least it is for me. In the first tray I've got 1 and 5 point orcs, beasts, and goblins. I've also got some excess health here to fill up these spaces. These could be replaced with debris chips, lava chips, promo Gearlock chips, whatever you'd like. I try to reserve my Baddy trays for baddies. In the second tray I've got 1 and 5 point bog, scales, and trolls. In the third tray I've got the mechs, the crown, 1, 5, and 20 point breaks, and the 20 point bog types. This last tray has the biggest spread of enemies and types, and I feel like the way I've divided them up is sort of uniquely me, so feel free to fill this up as you'd like. First we've got 1, 5, and 20 point spliced enemies. We've got our 20 point beasts, orcs, trolls, scales, and goblins. And I've split all those up with undertow debris chips. I also have my several sets of lane markers, day counters, a single lab rat health, and a secret chip that doesn't exist. And you may be asking how I tell these apart. Well, this tray doesn't have a lot of room for dividers, so I've applied the labels to the outside of the chip tray. And there you have it, a fully loaded Trove Chest. It all fits, and there's even a bit of extra room in case we want to add any additional stuff here and there. You'll have plenty of excess health, attack, defense, and other leftover dice and chips, but the Trove Chest will hold all of the things you'll need to run a game of Too Many Bones. I like to keep some of that excess material in my unbreakable box so that I can easily pack up a night's worth of Too Many Bones away from home. Again, there is no truly official way to load up your Trove Chest, so load it up in whatever way feels best and helps you get it to the table more often. If you've got a truly unique way that you've filled up your Trove Chest, please share it with us here. Thanks again for watching.